Hi, Radical here. I just wanted to come on real quick, something I just ran across while I was doing my news sweeps. And it turns out that, well, if any of you have paid any attention to the news, I mean, there was the initial, this is with regard to the Texas, the FLDS compound, the Yearning for Zion Ranch, and all 400 plus kids that were taken in custody there. And there's been much trumpeting about the two women that have had babies and about of the children of the women or girls between 14 and 17 years of age. They've claimed that there's 60% of those have been or are pregnant, and now it comes out, and this is Associated Press, came out 37 minutes ago by Michelle Roberts. It says San Antonio. Associated Press. When Texas child welfare authorities released statistics showing nearly 60% of the teen girls taken from a polygamous sex ranch were pregnant or had children, they seemed to prove what was alleged all along. The sect commonly pushed girls into marriage and sex. But in the past week, the state has twice been forced to admit girls who gave birth while in state custody are actually adults. One was 22 and claimed she showed state officials a Utah birth certificate shortly after she and more than 400 minors were seized from the West Texas ranch in the April raid. The state has in custody 24 other young mothers and others whose ages are in dispute. If most of them also turn out to be adults, it would be a severe blow to the state's claim of widespread sexual abuse. Not only would it be a massive blow, but, I mean, it just keeps screaming this idea that they stormed into this ranch on a false phone call. And they were so happy that they could trumpet around that these two women had babies, and it turns out neither of them were underage. Neither of them were girls. They were women. The article continues on. It says, if it turns out the other 24 disputed minors are adults, the number of actual 14 to 17-year-old girls with children could drop to as low as 5 or 6. That would amount to about 1/5 of the girls that age found at the ranch. Substantially higher than the average rate of teen pregnancies in Texas. Of course, you could go to a lot of metropolitan areas where you could get a rate at least that high, if not higher. And again, as I've discussed in my previous vids, I mean, if we can justify it by finding just 5 or 6 in a 400 child custody sweep, we could do that too in some cities. Just go and find some ghetto block and take all the kids, and you could find 5 or 6 girls there that had been victims of sexual abuse and had children. But so it says substantially higher than the average rate of teen pregnancies in Texas, but a far cry from 60%. Yeah, no kidding. Quote, it's not widespread, and you've got to look at every family individual to determine whether there is a problem in a family. That would be really the best way to go about it, rather than sweeping up a whole compound, 400 plus kids. Said Rod Parker, a spokesman for the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the renegade Mormon sect, and it's not Mormon, but I've went over that previously, that runs the ranch. Quote, there's no reluctance on our part to go ahead and take appropriate action if and when we can determine these are adults, said Patrick Crimmins, a spokesman for Child Protective Services. We are working as quickly as possible to sort this out and realize the urgency. All 463 of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day children removed from the Yearning for Zion Ranch have been in state custody for 6 weeks and are scattered in foster care facilities around the state. Crimmins said he's not sure how long it will take to resolve the disputed minor cases. CPS has complained that sect members refuse to cooperate with their investigation, constantly changing answers, refusing answers to questions about age and parentage. Parker claims that the state ignored evidence the young mothers presented. Now get this, including birth certificates and social security cards. He said with their long braided hair, makeup-free faces, and pioneer dresses, the women look very young. Yeah, but you're ignoring official documents. I like this next quote. Okay. They're deliberately ignoring official records that show these mothers are not minors, he said, citing the Utah birth certificate showing Louise Bradshaw Jessup was born in 1986. Patricia Matasaran, Jessup's attorney, questioned how a person proves her age if officials won't believe a birth certificate or a driver's license. which Jessup also gave the state. The issue is, how does anyone prove their date of birth? We don't get a stamp when we're born. It's just really, really, I mean, to me, it looks like CPS put this out. They were trying to pump this out because they know the vast majority of people in this nation will just kind of skim through what they hear in the media, and whatever pops out will stay in their mind. And so if you can get a big, huge percentage, 60% of the girls were pregnant or had been pregnant, well, if it turns out, gee, all those ones that you were saying had been or were pregnant, most all of them weren't children. They weren't. They were actual women. I don't know. It just boggles my mind that. Anyway, again, I'm not saying if there's any case where they find abuse, I hope that any and all abusers get brought to justice. But it just boggles my mind that they would completely ignore the Constitution. I mean, why do we have it if they're just going to storm in? If you can take 400 kids, over 400 kids off of one phone call. Anyway, I'll stop ranting on this, but hopefully that gives you a few things to think about. I'll link the article.